Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, and today I'll be following up on our talk on the planes with a look at some of the Demiplanes. Unlike the last few videos, this should be a more casual video. Instead of going over every Demiplane, going over every detail, every planar trait, those took a while. We'll be just looking at a select few of them. A more fun video to help me recover after all the research for the last few ones. Still talk full of information, but it's what I consider fun. So we'll be looking at 9 plus different demiplanes divided into 3 sections with today's side tangents in between them. There are many more demiplanes besides these, but most of them we only have the bare amount of information on. And if I did try to cover all the demiplanes, I really would be here all day. So, honorable mention goes to the flesh one, the world made of a giant corpse. The fresh freehold of the rogue angel, a realm of mysterious mad celestial known as the Forsaken Martyr. The Lost, the Neverland of Lost Children, and Rimlock's Hollow, the inconspicuous Osiris tomb which has no potential world-ending connections. Also, we already covered the likes of the Barba, the Dreamlands, Lang, and the Hallowed Realms in our part 2, so see them there. However, I cannot really do this without going through the gods, because I'm me. So let's go through the demiplanes that gods call the Divine Realms. No side tangents yet, just a speed run of an additional 3 on top of everything else I'm going through today. The first, Senosha, is the realm of Desna, as well as her regular guests of Black Butterfly and Peluru. It serves as the North Star of many planes, and can specifically be entered in both Elysium and the Material Plane. Other common guests spend time in Senosha's central castle, and rumors say in Desna's arms, include Sanray, Shaylin, Calistria, and, at times even, Famasa. Second is the Dead Vault, the prison which holds the god Rabagug. Those who enter the molten core of Galarian find what looks like a miniature Rabagug frozen in amber. Within, the world is a sphere, with heavy gravity pulling people towards the edge, Rabagug impaled in the center. And third, the Immortal Amuratori. The Immortal Amuratori. The realm of Apsu. This demiplane, which has floats around the various planes, is devoted to all good dragons. This plane hosts the followers of Apsu, as well as at least one of each of the metallic dragons to act as a consort. The player. It also has an anvil specifically designed for the destruction of orbs of dragon kind, artifacts that can control dragons. Now I move on to the actual 9 demiplanes. I'm going to give their own sections. Already 4 minutes in. I categorize these with some similarities to each other. These first ones are demiplanes which appeared in the adventure paths, having connections to stories that have already been told. First off, right from the original Rise of the Rune Lords, we have the Rune Forge. This demiplane was made by the Rune Lords of Tasnonia millennia ago. To increase the magical production of their empire, the Seven decided to create a demiplane specifically for that purpose. And since backstabbing was the call of the day, they made sure there was multiple wards in place so that they could ensure none of them tried to take the plane for their own. As expected, each of them tried, some multiple times, but the countermeasures were effective, and the forge remained neutral ground. It should also be mentioned that this is the place where the Rune Lord's 7 Swords of Sin, the Alawahai, were forged. When Thessalonia fell during Earthfall, the forge was abandoned, the permanent workers falling into either territorial infighting or madness. Speaking of Earthfall, when Earthfall happened, many elves abandoned the planet for the nearby world of Castroval. However, not all did. One such group was the inhabitants of the city of Selrinvian, who had a front row seat to the fall of the Cataclysm, when a piece of the meteor broke off and fell on their city. The echoes of this pain, combined with the latent magic of the piece of what would one day become the Star Stone, interacted with the Shadow Plane to create an echo of the city, continuously repeating the weeks leading up to the impact. The Apocalypse Echo was found by a drow wizard who was attempting to recreate Earthfall, who eventually found a way to access it. He used it as a base with which to do further research on his destructive goals. Since it is just a shadow, you cannot change the past from inside, and there is of course a very hard time limit that one can save in it. And a third one, also in the region of Assyria, the Dark Forest. This mysterious demiplane is found under the town of Kalmaga. Inside is a dark forest with a large keep in the center. This keep is home to a legend tied to the demiplane, and can be thought of as part of the demiplane. The Dark Rider, also known as the Black Huntsman and the Houndmaster. This Dullahan, around once a year, rides out and beheads a random victim somewhere across northwestern Avestan. The place 2E refers to as the Saga Lands. The specifics of why each victim is chosen is a mystery, the names being provided by the central pool of Dark Forest, the central focus of the Rider's Keep, the naming pool. This pool also births a new Dark Rider should the old one ever be slain. Theories of the Demiplanes and its guardian's origins include that he is a fallen servitor from Masa, that the builders of the Vault of Orb built the Demiplane and him to keep the walkers in line, or that it is a shard of a doomed future. Well, that is a good path to some Demiplanes. However, even in the episode devoted to Demiplanes, this does not mean at all I'm going to talk about all locations. Yes, that's right. It's time for today's first side tangent, the part of the show where people are just as interesting as the places. Maybe even more so in some cases. First off today is Nex, the legendary Archmage and founder of the nation he named after himself. There is a lot of information we can go through, but he has enough history to him and is so tied to his nation that much of it can be used for another video. Expect to write about Nex one day. Instead, let's look at one of his specialties, the creation of demiplanes and the various topics related to it. We know of 5 demiplanes created by the Archmage. First, the Crux of Nex. Yes, I'm using fingers again, even though I hate it. Need to keep track of these somehow for the viewers. Let's see. First, the Crux of Nex. Nex achieved immortality by connecting his life force to Demiplane. He also used shards of the Demiplane to create all of his other Demiplanes. The second is the Spire of Nex, a siege tower he used to attack Absalom, full with unimaginable creatures. Some examples we know of are some of Fazoli's flesh webs, and the Shadow Beast spawned in a deal with the eldest Count Ranalk. The third, Kakistan, is a demiplane formed within a maelstrom, full of imprisoned proteans, made just because he could. As it stands, it is more of a beach house to just relax than another one of Nexus tools. The fourth, and what would be Nexus' final demiplane, is the refuge of Nex, an emergency safe room to escape to if he ever needed to escape to a place of perfect safety. And when Geb sent poison across the nation of Nex, he did, only to never emerge. Many have tried to research the refuge and went in themselves, but all who go in have never come out. Why that is still a mystery, but recently the doors have mysteriously opened from the inside, creating rumors that Nex will soon return to the material plane. And fifth, he made one more demiplane, which deserves to be its own side tangent. Not on the fact that it exists, but by the events that happened there. I am talking about Worldscape. I never read these myself, but Worldscape is/was a comic book series that dealt with some of the iconics of Galarian find themselves trapped in demiplane created by Nex to draw on the greatest heroes from across the universe so that he could make a magical clone army of them. It ended up with Kira the iconic cleric, Marishon the iconic rogue, Sione the iconic sorcerer, and Valeros the iconic fighter, meeting up with science fictional characters including John Carter of Moss, Red Sonja, and Tarzan. What I know it for is that it included rules for various aspects of these classic fantasy legends in the Pathfinder setting, including racial options for Martians, and an archetype based off of Red Sonja. Seriously, look up the 1E Sword Devil archetype for the Ranger to learn how you too can play as a person voted as #1 sexiest woman in comic books. Or at least the sexy part you need to do yourself, character creation. Now, let's move on to a few more minor demiplanes. These demiplanes all have interesting implications across all the multiverse, and therefore are some highlights all planar travelers should have in the back of their mind. I'd be amiss to exclude them from this list. The first is the Circle Between. This ethereal demiplane is a conduit for many druids across planes and planets. You druids traveling away from home in an unfamiliar plane, especially those planes that hate all druids stand for, like Hell or Abaddon, or let's be honest, Axis. This is the reason you can still use your primal spells away from the material plane. Whenever a plant or animal is on the edge of extinction, they are brought here for refuge, to continue on in some semblance of nature. Humanoid-wise, various plane-touch druids and their patron, the Bramble Maiden, serve as caretakers of the realm. They also make sure that the standing stones which serve as the doors are well protected. Next, another story-related demiplane, the Vault of the Onyx Citadel. This demiplane is built into the plane of the Earth by the Zamorans, natives of the plane of Earth who make various subterranean complexes known as vaults. The Vault of the Onyx Citadel is approximately 170 miles by 120 miles. Numbers. Instead of just leaving the place at a wasteland, they also open holes into the other 3 elemental planes, and brought various types of vegetation into the demiplane, filling it out and make it more like the material plane than what one would expect from the plane of Earth. Well, the Zamorans moved on like they always did with finished products. Some stayed behind to act as caretakers, and the residents of the plane of Earth have found easy access into the vault, where they can sell or trade. But the single greatest feat crafted into the vault is the use of geomancy in order to create artificial ley lines, known as the Stone Roads. Because of this, the artifact known as the Onyx Key is able to be used to use the ley lines to go anywhere to and from the vault that they desire. It's currently held by the leaders of the monster nation of Oprak, and is being used to make diplomatic alliances between various hobgoblin nations, making the vault a potential tether for a powerful cross-continent alliance. And to end this trio, we cannot have a real talk about Demiplanes without a mention of Memorvor. This is a sentient Demiplane, which eats other Demiplanes. Yes, the Demiplane of one, its name is a place that literally commits cannibalism. Anyway, it mostly eats Demiplanes which have been abandoned, transforming the entirety of the consumed Demiplane into pure information, building up an endless library written in various different languages. The library is emblazoned with the image of a fox with a crown, its meaning unknown, though you might want to keep that in the back of your mind for the next entry. Hot tip. The library is inhabited by 9 different factions of outsiders, all unable to remember the worlds that they came from. But they've settled into a truce with each other, each staying to their own wings. The Demiplane was discovered not too long ago by an Orchard of Nex, who ended up there trying to access the vault. The refuge, not the vault. Refuge of Nex, not the vault that I was just talking about. Now, various international travelers take time to study the Demiplane to look to see what information they might be able to glean. Now, another Demiplane, another person who we have a small amount of information on. The prison of the Laughing Fiend and its resident, Tegrison, the Laughing Fiend. This is going to be on him, so side tangent number 3. Tegrison is a fiend of an unknown type, looking like either an imp or crozet, with a fox's head and a scorpion tail. Wearing a crown much too big for him. A fox with a crown. Things to think about. Anyway, he's a deal maker, promising to trade various favors for the right price. This is said to be how his prison was formed. Though he changes his history each time, it usually involves making a deal with a family from the material plane and them ending up in the Demiplane, trapped with all their souls. We have a few examples of these deals, which include bringing about the rise and fall of one of the former horsemen of the apocalypse, and giving an Asmar mortal who spent his life a slave an artifact which he could use to imprison and torture his angelic father, along with other outsiders. All deals with him are terrible ideas, designed to bring about the party's downfall. But Tegrison is charming enough to convince you to fall anyway. And now for our final trio. These are 3 Demiplanes we actually have a fair bit of information on, being on a similar level to Zibarba or Lair. I do not know why I went with the 2 nightmare examples or whatever. Either way, first is Genderlane. This realm was found deep in the Maelstrom, so people tend to be surprised it's a region of perfect order. This realm is a patchwork, depicting various different architectural styles next to each other in a seemingly random way, but in a way which makes sense once you realize the pattern. You see, this is a museum of sorts, a shrine dedicated to things long past. Whenever a world in a material plane comes to its end, Genderlane adds it to its ongoing collection, in the order the world was destroyed. In addition, one person from each of these worlds is also added as a tour guide of sorts, filled with full knowledge of the history of the lost world. There are 2 other residents in this world. First, the Watchers, mysterious eyeball creatures who help make sure no exhibits are damaged. The second is the Oliphant of Genderlane, a giant elephant who is the personification of the forces which brought about the end to all these lost worlds, and will one day bring about the end to all current living worlds. Some rumors say that the Demiplane is formed of the Olafant's guilt of the destruction it causes, making the Force the Demiplane's owner. Next is the Demiplane within the legendary Book of the Damned. The Angel Tebris and his 3 legendary books deserve their own video one day. But today, while we are on the topic of Demiplanes, the one within the book which examines the 3 evil planes and their occupants can be mentioned separate from the book itself. One thing that the owner of the book may do is use it to open a portal into itself. Within are endless white islands, each containing rows of crystals, interaction with which exposes diagrams, confessions, and other records of a single sin. And deep within is the unspeakable word, a titanic heart which continuously collects information on evils across all planes to allow the book to grow forever. It is also almost impossible for one to learn everything within, especially with how difficult it is to even find anything with the Demiplane's organization. There are 2 beings which can be called inhabitants of the plane. The Haunt, known as the Servants of the Damned, and the corrupted shard of Tebris' soul, which serves as keeper of the book, the voice of the damned. Now, the final Demiplane we will be speaking of today. We have covered a few libraries and other record-keeping Demiplanes, but there is one that stands above others. The Acoustic Record. This is the Demiplane we only really know of from rumors. The vast library is said to contain records of all events of the past, the present, and the future. This very premise is why some don't believe it exists. Such a place would eliminate all concept of free will, and the very premise of the Age of Lost Omens. However, there are plenty of tales of someone stumbling into the reading room of the vast library, changing the information in one book, and writing themselves either out of existence or into another timeline. There are also many psychic/occult spells, which are said to draw their power from the records, leading more credence to its existence. The library is said to be kept by many Aojans and the Danava Titan known as the Acoustic Guru, a being who can heal any injury by reverting to a former form of themselves. And now one final side tangent before I go. An addition which is topical. Aojan, the Ruby Phoenix. Aojan was a human being born in the city of Goka, a priestess of Abaddon and a painter. She spent much of her childhood in a museum until, due to an accident she caused, the museum burned down, killing her. Her parents sold her considerable wealth to buy a resurrection potion to bring their daughter back to life, which had the side effect of making her hair bright red and giving her powerful sorceress magic. Looking at the destruction of the culture she caused, she became determined to preserve the cultural artifacts of the people of TNZ to the best of her abilities. This led to her collecting an entire vault of rare artifacts, as well as some cities and people doomed to destruction. For these people, she made her own demiplane, the Aojan tapestry, which she kept with many of her other artifacts. She eventually left to explore the planes and was lost, aka kidnapped and brainwashed by the city of Axis, because Axis. And so, in accordance with her will, a tournament was set up in her name, the Ruby Phoenix Tournament. In the last 10 years, much has happened. The Demiplane has been recovered from the Pathfinders who won the 31st iteration of the tournament, and now no longer exists. Many evil forces leading to the tapestry unraveling. The Aojan has been found and returned to her homeland, but her time in Axis has made her second guess that everything she did has caused more harm than good. And so let's end this video on the Demiplanes, looking forward to the future and what Demiplanes and their creators might be bringing us in the near future. And that's it for today. Hope you all like my little pass to the planes. Now with this, we can also start with more specific videos, like I was planning to do, before I got sidetracked by the planes. I also got to mention the Ruby Phoenix tournament, so current topics, yay. It's about 2 weeks until we get all 3 parts of the adventure path, is it not? Still hoping for some curveballs like information on a Tianxi god or a random ancestry, like Wei Yang. Still have not been proven wrong on that. Either way, we will find out soon enough. And I have plenty of gods to talk to. We currently have plenty of gods which I can talk about. See you then.